Number 13, that is cost of production. As you know that producer theory explains the behavior of producers, so the goal of every company is to maximize the profit. You can say that producers or any of the firm make such decisions that will maximize their profit, and profit is equal to total revenue of firm minus its total costs. Now there is a difference between profit and a revenue. So revenue is how much money company collects from its customers. Basically, it is the income brought into the firm from selling its products, and it is calculated by multiplying price of a product times quantity of output sold. As you can see here, total revenue is equals to price into quantity. On the other hand, cost is the amount that firm pays to buy inputs. Total cost is the market value of the inputs a firm uses in production. A firm's cost of production includes all the opportunity cost of making its output of goods and services. As we have already learned about opportunity cost, that is, opportunity cost of something is what you give up to get it. Means what have you given up to get up some specific product. Here the opportunity cost is equals to explicit costs plus implicit costs. So explicit costs are input costs that require a direct outlay of money by the firm. That means that explicit costs are out of pocket cost, that is payments that are actually made. Example, wages that a firm pays to its employees or rent that a firm pays for its office are the explicit cost. In short, you can say that it is a flow of money from one side to another side. While on the other hand, implicit costs are input costs that do not require an outlay of money by the firm. Basically, implicit costs represent the opportunity cost of using resources already owned by a firm. For instance, a software engineer is working in a company and his salary is, let's suppose, $100 per month. But if he decides to start his own business, he has to give up that $100 per month in order to start his own business. And that foregone income is also a part of his cost. In order to explain both the cost, there is an example, that is the rent on office space is $500 per month, and the case one is you rent your office place. So the rental cost at the end of each month will be $500, which you pay to the owner of that office. That means explicit cost is equals to $500 per month that you are giving to the owner of that office or that room. And here the case number 2 is you own your office space. Let's suppose there is an extra room in your home which you are going to use as an office. So here explicit cost is, that is how much will you pay to your own self at the end of each month. So the answer is 0, as you are the owner of this room, means explicit cost in this particular case is 0, that you are not going to pay the rent of that room to your own self as you are the owner of that room. Here the implicit cost would be $500 per month, that is opportunity cost of using your own room as office instead of renting it. That means here implicit cost is foregone rent. So next one is economic profit versus accounting profit. Economist measures a firm's economic profit as total revenue minus total cost, including both explicit and implicit costs. That can be written as economic profit is equals to total revenue minus explicit costs plus implicit costs. While on the other hand, accountants measure the accounting profit as the firm's total revenue minus only the firm's explicit cost. You can say that in accounting profit there is no implicit cost. There is just total revenue minus explicit cost, and here it is written as accounting profit is equals to total revenue minus just explicit cost. Okay, from the above definitions, it's obvious that when total revenue exceeds both explicit and implicit cost, the firm earns economic profit, because economic profit is covering both costs, that is explicit cost and implicit cost, and economic profit is smaller than accounting profit. It can be obvious from this diagram. Now look at the economic profit, that is that whole bar, revenue minus total opportunity cost, and opportunity cost is implicit cost and explicit cost. So revenue minus implicit cost minus explicit cost equals economic profit, and in accounting profit, that whole bar is revenue minus this box explicit cost equals accounting profit, and here it's obvious that accounting profit is greater than economic profit. Coming to another example, that is Fred currently works for a corporate law firm. He is considering opening his own legal practice where he expects to earn $200,000 per year once he gets established. To run his own firm, he would need an office and a law clerk. He has found the perfect office, which rents for $50,000 per year. A law clerk could be hired for $35,000 per year. And if these figures are accurate, would Fred's legal practice be profitable or not? So coming to step 1, that is, first you have to calculate the costs. For this, you can take what you know about explicit cost and find their sum. That is, office rental is $50,000, law clerk's salary is $35,000. By summing up, the answer is $85,000, that is the total explicit cost. Now coming to step 2, that is subtracting explicit cost from revenue gives you the accounting profit. As we have already learned about accounting profit, that is equals to total revenue minus explicit cost. So here the revenue is $200,000 and explicit cost is $85,000. So revenue minus explicit cost is equals to accounting profit, that is equals to $115,000. That is the accounting profit. So these calculations consider only explicit cost. To open his own practice, Fred would have to quit his current job where he is earning an annual salary of $125,000. This would be an implicit cost of opening his own firm. Here step 3 is subtracting both explicit and implicit cost to determine true profit. that is economic profit, which is equals to total revenue minus explicit cost minus implicit cost. So total revenue is $200,000 minus explicit cost, that is $85,000, and implicit cost, that is $125,000. So calculating all these values, the economic profit is $10,000 per year, that is economic profit. So Fred would be losing $10,000 per year. That doesn't mean he would not want to open his own business, but it does mean he would be earning $10,000 less than if he worked for corporate firm. Here is the part 2 of chapter number 13, that is cost of production. Recall what we have studied in part 1 of this chapter, and it's all about the concept that the main objective of a firm is to maximize the profit. Additionally, we have also learned some important terminologies such as explicit cost, implicit cost, opportunity cost, economic profit, accounting profit, etc. Now we are going to start production function, that is relationship between quantity of inputs used to make a good and the quantity of output of that good. If we say that profit is equals to total revenue minus total cost, as we have already learned this, so total revenue is equals to price times quantity, that means price multiplied by quantity. So here Q is the function of land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship, and all these factors that is land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship are known as factors of production altogether. They are the inputs basically needed for supply. They produce all goods and services in the economy. So here is the picture. You can see all the 4 factors of production are present in this picture. So coming to factor 1, that is labor. Labor as factor of production means labor is the work done by people. The reward or the income for labor is wage. That means wage is given to labor for their work. Second factor of production is land. That means it is short for all natural resources available to create supply. It includes raw materials and anything that comes from ground. The income earned by owner of land and other resources is called rent. Third factor of production is capital, and it is short for capital goods. These are man-made objects like machinery, equipments and chemicals that are used in production. And the income earned by owner of capital goods is called interest. In this case, capital is tractor which is used in the farms, and the owner of the tractor is earning interest on it. The fourth factor of production is entrepreneurship, and it is the drive to develop an idea into a business. And entrepreneurship combines the other 3 factors of production, that is land, labor and capital, to add to supply. The income entrepreneurs earn is known as profit. So coming back to Coming back to production function, there is a schedule in which column 1 shows the workers, that is labor, and column 2 shows there, and the column 2 shows the output, and in this example output is cookies. If the labor is 0, then the output produced is 0. You can also see it from here on the graph that if the labor hired is 0, so at this point the quantity of output produced is also 0. And if the labor is 1 at this point, so the output produced here is 50. That means hiring labor 1 on x-axis means that the quantity of cookies produced per hour is 50, in between 40 and 60, this point. When the amount of labor is 2 here, then the output produced is 90, this point corresponding to labor. Likewise, when 3 workers are hired, then the output produced is 120 units at this point. And if 4 laborers are being hired, then the output produced is 140 units, point corresponding to labor. And for 5 laborers, the output produced is 150, and for the 6 laborers, the output produced is 155, this point, in between 140 and 160. And if we join all the points in the graph, we can get the production function. Now comes the marginal product. We can say that if one more worker is hired, then the output rises by marginal product of labor. So the marginal product of any input, in this case is labor, is the increase in output arising from an additional unit of that input, holding all other inputs constant, that is land and capital are constant here. So MPL is equals to, MPL means marginal product of labor, is equals to delta Q divided by delta L, and this delta denotes change in Q due to change in L. That means change in quantity due to change in labor, or you can say that how much quantity changes when you change the number of workers you hired. How can we calculate marginal product of labor? Look at this schedule having number of workers, output produced, and marginal product of labor. If labor input increases from 0 to 1, the change in output is 50 minus 0, that is 50. Again, if the labor input increases from 1 to 2, the change in output is 90 minus 50, that means 40. If the change in labor input increases from 2 to 3, then the change in output is 120 minus 90, that is 30. Likewise, if the labor input increases from 3 to 4, then the change in output is 140 minus 120, and the marginal product of labor is 20. Similarly, if the labor input increases from 4 to 5, then the change in output is 150 minus 140, and the marginal product of labor is 10 at this point. And if the labor input increases from 5 to 6, then the change in output is 155 minus 150, that is 5, and the marginal product of labor here is 5. Marginal product of labor is change in quantity given the change in labor. Now going back to the production function graph. This is the same graph we did before. Number of workers on x-axis and quantity produced on y-axis. So MPL, that is marginal product of labor, is the slope from one worker to two worker. That means here from one worker to another worker. From this point to this point, it is the slope of production function, that is MPL. From this point to this point again, from this to this point, and similarly for these 2 points. So we can say that marginal product of labor is the slope of production function. Next important question is why marginal product of labor diminishes. In this example, output rises by a smaller and smaller amount, as we can see in the schedule of marginal product of labor. Yes, coming to this schedule, now look here in this example, output rises by a smaller and smaller amount for each additional worker. This one, 50 to 90, then 120, 140, then a very small change of like 10 units, and then the change is 5 units. So output rises by a smaller and smaller amount for each additional worker. Why is it so? And the reason is, as the workers increases here, the average worker is contributing less to the output and will be less productive. In general, marginal product of labor diminishes as labor increases. You can see here, as the number of labor or the number of workers are increasing here, so the marginal product of labor diminishes. Now look there, the marginal product of labor is diminishing there. Like initially it's 50, then 40, 30, 20, 10 and 5. When there is, you can say, one worker, so the marginal product of labor is 50, and when there are 6 workers, so the marginal product of labor has diminished to point, or you can say that 5. So the diminishing marginal product of input declines as the quantity of input increases. So it's evident from this schedule as well. In this part of the lecture, we are going to start the topic that is from the production function to the total cost curve. That means how can we relate these two concepts, that is production of function and total cost curve. The relationship between the quantity a firm can produce and its cost determine the pricing decisions. So it helps the firms or the business persons to make pricing decisions. And when we relate both production function and cost curve, then we can say that how firms make decision about the prices. Now I am going to explain production function and total cost with the help of this table. There are number of columns here. You can see And the first column is number of workers, that is labor used in the process of production. Next column shows the output, that is quantity of cookies produced per hour. The third column shows the marginal product of labor, and we have also learned how to find marginal product of labor in our last lectures. Here another column is the cost of factory, and you can see that the cost of factory is fixed, that is constant. That means here you can see that the cost of factory is $30. That means it is fixed or constant. In the next column there is a cost of workers, and it is increasing with every additional labor. You can see first it is $0, then $10, then $20, 30, 40, 50, and then 60. That means it is increasing with every additional labor. And how can we calculate the cost of labor? Here in this case, just multiply the wage rate with labor. That means W multiplied by L. W here is the wage rate and L is the number of labor. So here in this case, wage rate is $10 for one labor. Then for two labors, the cost of workers is 2 multiplied by 10, and the cost for two laborers is here $20. In this way we can calculate the cost of workers, that is by simply multiplying wage rate, that is $10, and multiplying the wage rate with the number of laborers. And the last column of this table shows total cost of inputs, this one. That is, it is the sum of cost of factory that remains constant throughout the table, and the cost of workers that is increasing. So by adding these two columns, that is cost of factory and cost of workers, we can get total cost here. Let's suppose $30 plus $0, that means $30. So the total cost of input, when the cost of workers is 0 and the cost of factory is 30, it is also $30. And if there is $10, that is the cost of worker, and cost of factory again remain constant, that is $30. So the total cost of input here is 30 plus 10, that is 40. So we can get all these values of the total cost of inputs by adding cost of factory and cost of workers. Okay, coming to next one, that is marginal product of labor. So this column shows the marginal product of labor. If we see that the number of worker is 0, then output is also 0, and the marginal product of labor is 0 here in the first case. But on the other side, cost of capital is $30, that is fixed, and the cost of worker again is 0, as we are not using any labor in the process of production. So the total cost is the sum of both costs of factory, that is $30, and the cost of worker, that is 0, and it becomes $30 in total. Okay, now if number of worker is 1, then the output produced is 50 units. We can say that 50 units of cookies produced per hour, and the marginal product of labor is 50 here. As we know that marginal product of labor is equal to delta Q over delta L. That means change in Q due to change in labor. So here the change in Q is 50. Change in Q, that is the change in quantity output. So that is 50 minus 0 equals to 50, and change in labor, that is 1 minus 0 again equals to 1. So 50 divided by 1 is 50. So MPL, that is marginal product of labor, here is 50. And here the cost of capital is again fixed, that is $30. And the cost of labor is $10. So adding them up, we get $40 as a total cost of input. If the number of workers are 2 now, then output produced here is 90 units. We can say that 90 units of output are produced if there are 2 workers here. And the marginal product of labor is 40. That is change in Q, that Q is output due to change in labor. So here 90 minus 50, 90 minus 50 equals to 40 divided by change in labor, that is 2 minus 1 equals to 1. So 40 divided by 1 equals 40. So the marginal product of labor here is 40. Cost of capital is again fixed, and the cost of worker is now $20, and the total cost becomes $50. Similarly, if we are using 3 laborers, the output produced is 120 units in this case, and here by hiring 3 laborers, the marginal product of labor is 30, that is change in Q divided by change in L. So change in Q here is 120 minus 90 divided by change in L, that is 3 minus 2, which is equals to 30. And the cost of factory is constant, again $30, and the cost of worker is $30. So the total cost in this case is $60. So if you combine, if you continue, continue with this. So now if the number of workers are now 40, and the output produced here is 140 units, and here the marginal product of labor is 20. That comes by change in Q over change in L. So here change in Q is 140 minus 120 divided by change in L, that is 4 minus 3. So the answer is 20. And here the cost of factory, again it is constant, that is $30, and the cost of workers is $40. So adding them up, the total cost of input, that is the cost of factory plus the cost of workers, become $70. Again coming to next level, that is the number of workers here is 5. By hiring 5 laborers, the output produced here is 150 units, and here the marginal product of labor is 10. which is again calculated by the formula, that is change in Q divided by change in L. So here change in Q is 150 minus 140 divided by change in L, that is 5 minus 4, and the answer is 10. So the MPL, that is the marginal product of labor, here is 10. And the cost of factory, again it is constant, that is $30, and the cost of workers now is $50. So adding these two costs, that is the cost of factory and the cost of worker, the total cost becomes $80. Coming to the number of workers, here in this case is 6. So by hiring 6 laborers, the output produced, that is the quantity of cookies produced per hour, is 155 units, and in this case the marginal product of labor is 5, which can be calculated by the formula, that is change in Q divided by change in L. That means change in Q is 155 minus 150 divided by change in labor, that is 6 minus 5 equals to 1, and the marginal product of labor here is 5. And the cost of factory, again it is constant, it remains constant throughout this table as you have seen here. And the cost of workers is now $60. And in the start I told you the formula of calculating the cost of workers, that is the wage rate W multiplied by labor. So here in this case the wage rate is $10. So by adding 6 labors, that means for 6th labor the cost of worker is 6 multiplied by wage rate, that is $10. So it is 6 multiplied by 10 equals to $60. So the cost of workers here is $60, and by adding these two costs, that is cost of factory $30, which is fixed, and the cost of worker, which is $60, by adding them up we can get total cost of inputs, that is cost of factory and the cost of workers, equals to $90. By using this table, this one, we can draw total cost curve, in which we are using 2 columns, that is total cost and output produced. Quantity of output, that is cookies per hour produced, are remaining on the x-axis, and the total cost is on y-axis. Here if we see that 0 units are produced, this one, the quantity of output is 0 units. Against these like you can say 0 unit, we have total cost, that is 30 at this point. There, let's suppose we can say this point as A, and we can see this from table as well. When the quantity produced is 0, so the total cost of input is $30, and it's easily shown over here in the graph as well. If the quantity of output produced is 0, so against this point the total cost of input is $30. Okay, again against the 50 units of output produced, total cost is 40. Now you can look over here. If 50 units of output are produced, so against this point the total cost of inputs is $40, and it's clear from the table as well. When the output is 50 units, so the total cost is $40. Then for 90 units of output, here in between 80 and 100. The total cost is 50, this point here. For 120 units of output produced, if we can say that the quantity of output produced here is 120, and against this point, or you can say against 120 units of output produced, total cost is $60 there. So this is the point. For now, coming to next unit, that is for 140 units of output, this one, the total cost is now 70. So against 140 units of output produced, the total cost would be here $70. And for 150 units of output, total cost is 80 here. If the quantity produced here is 150, so the total cost against this output level is $80. And for 155 units of the output produced, the total cost is here $90, this point. And if we join all these points, these black dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, if we combine or join all these points, then we will get the total cost curve. And this graph basically shows that when output is increasing, as you can see it from the table, that if the output is increasing, that is from 0, then 50, 90, 120, 140, 150 and 155, that when the output is increasing, the total cost is also increasing, and it's also visible here. For it is $30, then becomes $40, then 50, 60, 70, 80 and 90. I hope it's clear to you as well. This graph basically shows the relationship between the quantity of output produced and the total cost. And in the table we have also seen the rising trend here. If the quantity or the output produced is 50, if it is 0, then the total cost of input is $30, as we are adding cost of factory, that is constant in the total cost of input as well. So when the output is increasing to 50 units, then cost is also rising to $40. Similarly, when it is increasing to 90 units, then the cost is also here is 50 units. So that means that when the output is increasing, the total cost is also increasing, and you can see this from this graph as well. If the output is increasing, the total cost is also increasing on every point, like this way.